Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant. Today we are at the next topic of our Morra Gambit and we are going to discuss the second part of Dragon. This is our fourth lesson of Morra Gambit. So today we are going to complete the remaining lines. So let's get to the starting position quickly. After e4, c5, d4, cd, c3, dc, knight c3, g6, knight f3 and c6. So we are discussing this g6 and c6 move order. This position can come either way. And firstly we will start with the move after bishop c4, d6. The main line is bg7. It's important to look at d6 because this looks similar to the previous line where there was bg7. Okay, but this time see qb3 is correct move. In that line na5 was possible. So after qb3 we can see that now na5 would be a blunder because if na5 then bf7 check, kd7 there is just pd6 check. So e6 is forced. Now comes bishop f4. The d6 pawn becomes weak instantly as soon as there is e6 and g6 both. Now if knight a5 trying to snatch the bishop desperately, then comes bb5 check, bd7, qc2. Good move. Now bb5 allows nb5 and after rook c8 we can see after queen a4 it's a almost losing position. See knight has to return to c6 and see rook d1. d6 is instantly lost. After the move rook c8 there comes bd7, qd7 and once again rook d1. And we see that d6 is still weak. There is going to be bd6 and e5. So this position is also clearly better for white. So we can say na5 is absolutely useless in this line. Black can try a6 stopping the move nb5 or bb5. Now there can be na5. Now this is one of the important lines because now after na5 black wants to snatch the bishop, play bd7, rook c8 and he wants to be a pawn up. But this is the good thing about the position. White being so many tempo up, he can easily play the move b2. He can afford this move. He preserves the bishop and he will still go with the move rook d1. Now see, now two moves are possible, be7 and nf6. Let's see. After be7, rook d1, queen c7 getting rid of the pin and see queen a3. We can see that the d6 pawn is lost by force. So again white is clearly better. After nf6, still rook d1, nh5 because see there was this threat as it is, bd6 to be7 also this would have happened and see e5. Now we are going to regain the material but see many would say black still has the extra pawn, right? There is no gain of material here. But see, there are two problems. First threat is lc4 and second threat is bh5. And white is going to soon lock the black queen side. See, after qc7, knight c4, good move. Bishop e7 forced. Knight b6, see the position of the queen side. b8 and see bh5, gh castle. We can easily make out how black is struggling here. He desperately needs e5. Which is blunder because of nc d5 and if he can't play e5, look at the king side, it's difficult to castle and see it's very difficult to get the bishop and rook out. So this is almost winning position for white. So now we have completed the whole idea of going d6 in this today's move order. Now we will focus on the main line where black simply plays bg7. So to bc4 instead of d6, black plays bg7. This line we discussed briefly in the previous lesson. White has to play the move e5. Do check out that lesson. I have discussed all the basic details of this line. We have discussed the move queen a5 also. The whole game was based on that. Today we will look at the move knight takes e5, bishop takes e5 and nh6. It is said that nh6 is the best chance for black. Let's see. After nh6 castle, of course, black cannot still take on e5 because after knight e5, be5, h6 knight hangs. So castle. Now bishop f4, protecting the pawn on e5. Black will play d6. See this line you may not face at all because see there is hardly any player around or less than 2000 rating who will be readily willing to return the pawn. But see this move is very important. It can get black very close to equality. See after e takes d, white should not hurry to regain the pawn. He plays qd2, putting pressure on the knight. Knight f5 and now see rook a d1. So this is a kind of waiting move that white should try. After na5, white should just play bd5 and white is somewhat still better in this position. And if black goes rook e8, that is white's main idea for waiting in this position. Now see, now comes the winning move, bishop f7 check. This is the tactic white was waiting for. King f7, knight g5 check, forcing the king to f8. kg8 would have lost to queen d5 straight away. Still comes q d5, very strong. Now qf7 is mate. And see, after rook e7, knight h7 check, ke8 re1. It's a gone game now. See, once the knight is removed, let's say g4, there can be qg8 check. There are several threats already. There is the threat of bg5 and rook e1 would lose to rook takes e1. So this is a winning position for white. But we can say that the move nh6 is the best one. Black should not play rook e8 over there. So now let's go to the lines where black will take the pawn on e5. So we will look at those lines which we didn't consider in the last lesson. Bishop e5 is an option, to which c comes bf7 check, kf7, queen d5 check. No doubt white will recover the pawn. So knight e5 check, very important move. And after c, knight e5, queen e5, white is better. So first black should play kg7, gaining a tempo. Knight c6, important move, good move, forcing b takes c6. And now see, queen e5 check. For the pawn, all the black squares in the black position are weak. There is the opposite colored bishop, which makes the attacker's chance great. Here there are two moves, queen f6 and nf6. Firstly, after nf6, ne4, d5, we see the strong move bh6 check. See, forces to take kh6 and see knight f6. Winning on the spot, knight g4 is a waiting threat, and you can see white's position is much better. So best is queen f6, and after queen f6 comes bishop f4. Good move, queen e5, b e5, knight f6, and this time see knight e4. Simply the exchange would be lost on f6 after rook f8, and white's position is winning. So finally we have the move knight e5, which happens to be one of the main variations. Let's see how the game proceeds. White's play should be precise because see, we are offering the second pawn. So, or if he regains the pawn, then there is a lot of liquidation which is going to happen. See, actually he will get the pawn back. There is knight e5, b e5, bf7 check. So this exact calculation was required. King takes f7, q d5 check. And now see, we discussed the move kf6 last time. After ne4, white wins very easily. So now there are two options, e6 and kg7. After e6, this is very much like the previous line. Queen takes e5. Now see, if nf6, then just knight b5, very strong. Knight will jump on d6. All the black squares are covered. The c8 bishop would remain blocked. So this is a close to winning position. And after queen f6, white has the good move qc7. Here also there is dark square bind, and as it is said in opposite colored bishop position, the attacking bishop acts like an extra piece. Even we can say that the king's safety is also big concern for black over here. So this is also white is clearly better. So the best option is king g7 perhaps. After queen e5 check, nf6. Now this position is critical. Here the king is much safer, and see, black will get d6 and then e5 d5. If black manages that, then he will have better center, safe king, and just an extra pawn. But things are not that easy. Here firstly white simply castles, and after d6 there is a choice that white has to make. Where to put the queen? Because see, queen has choice between e3 and e2 at the least, and incidentally the move queen e2 is bit better, so we will discuss only that. Now see, idea is very simple. Black wants d5 and d5. If he gets both, he will be better. So if re8 is played here, then just g5, and we can see e5 is not possible and d5 would win on the spot. So black plays bishop f5. Now white has to wait. Instant bg5 is of no use. E pawn has not moved yet. So be3, important waiting move. Rooks will join d1 and e1. So black can play e5. This is my main purpose, to show you how to stop e5 and d5 both. So after e5, there comes c, rook a d1, d5, and the instant bishop g5. Numerous threats. Queen e5 is a threat. d5 is hanging. Knight on f6 is pinned. So after d4, we can see that the move queen e5 and queen b5 both are very strong. We can consider queen e5 outright. But I like the move qb5 also. Both are very strong. and clearly better position for white. So black should first play rook e8. So black should first play rook e8 before going e5. Still now rook f e1, e5. First let us see why e5 is wrong. Then we will come to the main move rook c8. After e5 still rook a d1, d5, bishop g5. This time e5 is more secure, but after cube e5 here, queen into e5 was not possible. So now see, there is threat of re5 and also there is threat of qb7. After the trade of queens with qd7, white had seen that he has a combination. See, bf6, kf6, nd5, and after any king move takes and knight c7, creating a fork. And do note that after rook c8, knight e8, re8 forced, here white has the very strong move f4, breaking the pawns. After ef, rooks would be traded and rook d4, white would win very easily. This f4 move is very important one. So finally after rook f e1, the best move perhaps rook c8, and here white simply goes rook a d1. Still it's too early to take on a7 because after b6 we will see that qb5 then nd7. b6 is well guarded. So knight g4 was played by black. Now comes bishop a7. There is now no fear of b6 because of just qb5. Knight is not on f6. And after queen a5, white plays the good move h3. This is an excellent trade. See, after queen a7, h takes g4, bd7. Let's take stock of things. White has got a splendid position. See, 5 pawns versus 5 pawns means pawns are recovered. Black square h6 is weak, light squares d5, e6 are weak, and white wants black to play e6 so that d6 becomes weak. So after say nd5, if e6, then see knight comes back. Once queen b6 is played to support d6, white just does g5. The h6 and f6 are weak. Knight will now from e4 jump to f6, and this position is, we can say again, clearly better for white. What a position to have right after the opening. So lines are seen, not very tricky and not very complex, but one develops a very good feel of initiative through these kind of gambits. So I hope you are finding these lessons useful and instructive. Do let me know in the comments below. Thanks for your time.